Hello everybody, welcome back to the American Textbook Reading Series. We're on Lesson 5, The Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, and I'm Brian Stuart, by the way, almost forgot. Okay, we're on Lesson 5, The Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance is what this girl is doing. She's of course American. Many American school children say the Pledge of Allegiance. So in this unit, you will discover the Pledge of Allegiance and the flag of the United States, the U.S. So this girl is pledging allegiance to the flag of the United States. Let's take a look at the words we need to learn to talk about these ideas. First of all, of course, is pledge. We said the Pledge of Allegiance. What is a pledge? A pledge is a promise. It's the words that you use to promise that you will do something. A pledge is very similar to a promise. Usually that when people say that they promise to do something and it's very formal, it's a very solemn or very important promise, they usually do something like this, right? I promise I will do it. Or they do this when they pledge allegiance. So it's a very important or very solemn means important or very formal type of promise that you make, and that's a pledge. What is allegiance? We're talking about pledge of allegiance. Allegiance means to be faithful to someone or something. So of course we see a soldier here wrapped himself in the flag, right? Very patriotic. Allegiance means to be faithful to something. In other words, that you will always support something. You will always do something. Your actions will be to help or to support someone or something else. People can say, where is your allegiance? Or where does your allegiance lie? In other words, is your allegiance to your country? Is your allegiance to your family? Or is your allegiance just to yourself? If your allegiance is just to yourself, that person is selfish. They only are faithful to themselves. But if their allegiance is to their family, that means that they want to support and they want to help their family. If their allegiance is to their country, that means that they want to support and they want to help their country. So that's what allegiance is. It's being faithful, helping someone or supporting someone or something. Okay. Flag. Now you pledge allegiance to a flag. It sounds like an odd idea. A flag is just a piece of cloth, right? But a flag is a symbol. A flag is a piece of cloth that is the symbol of a group, organization, or country. So a flag is more than just a piece of cloth. It's a symbol. It symbolizes that country. And a flag symbolizes not just the country, but the ideals of the country or group or organization, because groups can have flags, organizations can have flags. Of course, sports teams have their own flags, but especially countries. We're talking about pledge of allegiance to the flag. Means that you're promising to be faithful, not to a piece of cloth, but to the ideas that that piece of cloth symbolize. What are the ideas that the American flag symbolizes? Of course, democracy, helping other people, being an American citizen, supporting your country. Those are the ideas that this piece of cloth symbolizes. That's what the American flag symbolizes. Of course, the Korean flag also symbolizes many of the same things for Koreans. Okay, our next word is stand for. So we just looked at the word flag and it symbolizes something. Symbolize and stand for is the same thing. Stand for means to symbolize, right? Symbol is a noun, it's a thing. Symbolize means to stand for that idea. The symbol stands for another idea. To stand for, to mean something. So what are we talking about? What things stand for other things? Usually symbols, like we use the example of the flag. The flag, when you see the flag, it means something to you. But it's not just flags that are symbols. Many things can be symbols. Pictures, letters, numbers are all symbols. If we see this picture, a white dove carrying an olive branch, if we see this symbol or this picture, branch, olive branch, that is a symbol for peace. This picture stands for peace. By the way, this is a very, very old symbol going back to Greece, ancient Greece. Okay? This is a very old symbol, a white dove carrying an olive branch in its mouth. That's a symbol of peace. It stands for peace. So what does a symbol stand for? What does it mean? Honor. Honor is a very important word, of course, when you're talking about promises and you're talking about being faithful to a certain amount of ideas or a certain group or a certain country. Honor is very important. Honor means to do something to show respect. When you honor something or someone, you're showing respect for someone or something. These soldiers, of course, soldiers have a very high code of honor. They believe in honor very much. Honor is very important to soldiers, and especially they show honor to their nation's flag. Let's take a look here. Now these soldiers are very formal. They're very strict in how they behave. They, of course, are showing honor. They're doing a rifle drill. It's part of the way to honor or to pay respect to their country and also to their fellow soldiers who may have died in wartime. This is a memorial. This actually is a grave of, I believe it's the unknown soldier in Washington, D.C. It's a grave where the remains of the soldier who is in here, they don't know who he is. He symbolizes, those remains symbolize all American soldiers who died in wars in various places, especially those soldiers who've died and the remains or the bodies could not be found. This symbolizes all of those men and women. And the soldiers honor this memorial to show their respect for their fallen comrades, for their fallen fellow soldiers who have fallen in war. So you show respect or you show honor to symbols or national monuments. You also honor your flag. Okay, liberty. Liberty is an ideal, a very important ideal in America. The flag, the American flag, stands for liberty. Liberty means having the right to be free from any control. The important thing about America and the important thing about the United States history is that they wanted to be free from a king. They wanted to have their own government, to have their own free government, so that each person could feel free from a government control, that the government didn't control them, that they were the government. They controlled their own lives. They controlled their own societies. And if you do that, then you have liberty. Just like this bird can fly where it wants to, right? It has liberty. It's free. Of course, no society is completely free. But if you live in a society where there's not a king or a queen or a dictator telling you what you must do or where you have to live or how you must think, then you have liberty. And everybody should have liberty. Everybody should be free from those types of government controls. That's a very important part about America. It's what the American flag stands for. It stands for liberty. It stands for justice. Justice means treating people equally and fairly. Now that's the ideal, right? It doesn't always happen that way, but that's the ideal. Justice means that you use the law to treat everybody equally. Everybody should be equal. Everybody should have the same fair chance in life. That is justice. If people do not have the same chances or they are not being treated equally, then there is no justice. Okay, justice means everybody should be equal, everybody should be fair. That's what justice means. Republic. Now it's interesting to think about this. America people say, you know, it's a democracy. It is a democracy, but the form of government is a republic. A republic is a country where leaders are chosen by a vote. A true democracy is where each person can decide, can participate directly in making laws. But it's impractical because think about that. There's like 350 million people in America. You can't get that many people together to vote on a law. That would be chaos. It would be crazy, right? Too many people saying, no, I think this way, I think this way. So in other words, what they have to do is many people will choose one person to represent them. So one state, right, will have 2, 3, 4, maybe several leaders that are chosen from that state to go to the government and make those decisions for them. That's why we have elected officials. That's why we have politicians. Politicians are leaders. We choose them by voting for them, and we choose them every 4 years in America, and they represent us. And that system of government is called a republic. Okay? It's not a true democracy where every person is involved in every decision. That would be crazy. It would be too chaotic. You can't control that. So we have a republic where people are chosen by votes. Okay, indivisible. That's one of the words in the Pledge of Allegiance. Indivisible means cannot be separated. Cannot be separated. And that's an important point, because in some parts or some times of American history, there have been times when some states tried to separate from the nation. A famous example is the Civil War, when the South tried to separate itself from the North. But there was a war fought about that, of course, and the North won. The South stayed together in part of one nation. So the nation, America, is indivisible. It means that no state can go off and make its own country or its own laws. Every state or every region in America is part of the whole. They're all in it together. So there's a couple of different ideas. Indivisible, in means not. Divisible means to divide or able to divide. Whoops, divide. Whoa, what's wrong? Divide, not able to divide, not able to divide, cannot be separated. You can't split America up into different groups. It's one nation. That's very important. Okay, so the Pledge of Allegiance. What is the Pledge of Allegiance? Every school person, every school student, young school student in America knows the Pledge of Allegiance because we remember this because every day in some schools, when I was a student, I'm not sure what they do nowadays, but I'm pretty sure it's the same. Every day, students will stand up. There's a flag in the classroom, not in every class, but in the first class of the day. Students will stand up and they will put their right hand, not their left hand, their right hand over their heart as a symbol of their faithfulness, and they will pledge allegiance to the flag. And it goes like this: I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, one nation, indivisible, under God, with liberty and justice for all. And that is the Pledge of Allegiance. I haven't said that for a long time because I've been living in Korea, and I don't normally say that even if I go back to America. But you can see I remember it many, many years ago because every school children says it so often. And it's also not just said in school, it's also said before any sporting game. Like if you go to a baseball game in America, before the game starts, everybody stands up, put the hand over the heart, and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Of course, if you're not an American citizen, you don't have to do this, okay? But American citizens should do it. And if somebody doesn't do it, then other people look at them and say, hey, what's wrong with that person, okay? Why don't they say it? Aren't they American? Okay, so this is the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, now we've come to our word matching exercise. We have the words, we're going to match them to the definitions. Let's take a look. Pledge. Allegiance. Allegiance. It's a difficult word. Flag. That's easy. Stand for. Stand for. Honor. Honor. And liberty. Liberty. Let's see how we can match these words to their proper definition. Let's take a look here. Number one, to mean something. So if you look at something and it means something else, like for example, a picture means something, okay? A flag, a piece of cloth means something. A number or a letter means something. We can say it symbolizes that thing, or another word for symbolize we learned is stand for. It stands for something else. So the flag stands for justice and liberty, for example. 2, the word or words of promise. When you make a promise to something and you say those words of promise, of the promise that you're making, what is that? That, of course, is pledge. You're pledging something, you're promising something. So remember, the words that you use to promise something, I promise I will do it, you're making a pledge. We say it's a pledge. You give a pledge or you make a pledge. You give a pledge to someone or something, or you make a pledge to someone or something. It's also used as a verb, to pledge. So a pledge or to pledge. It's used in both ways. Number 3, being faithful to someone or something. If you are faithful to your family, you are showing what? If you are faithful to your country, you are showing what? What is it? It, of course, is allegiance. You are showing your allegiance if you are being faithful to someone or something. You're showing your allegiance to that person or thing. Number 4, having the right to be free. Having the right to be free from any control. You have the right to be free from any control, especially government control. Now, be careful. It doesn't mean you have the right to be free from your parents' control. Okay, I'm sorry, but you have to be an adult before you can have the right to be free from your parents' control. And any control, it sounds, wow, really free. But of course, we do have controls in society. We have laws. So it doesn't mean that. It just means that you have the right to do what you want to do in terms of you can move where you want to move. You can get a job. What job do you want? You have the right to try to get a job in any area that you want. You have the right to move around, to go places, to think a certain way, to say certain things. These are your freedoms. That is your what? It is your liberty. You have the liberty to do those things. And if you live in a free country, in a democratic country, you have the liberty to do these things. Number 5, to do something to show respect for someone or something. So if you're going to show respect for someone or something, what are you doing? You are showing or you are honoring that thing. You honor the flag. You honor your parents. You honor, in your country, you honor certain monuments. There might be statues, or there might be certain places that are important to your country's history, and you honor those places. You show respect. 6, a piece of cloth that is the symbol of a group, an organization, and especially a country. Every country has one of these. It's a piece of cloth with a certain pattern on it, a certain design, and it symbolizes that country. But of course, organizations, for example, sports teams usually have one of these. What is it, of course? It's called a flag. So a flag is a piece of cloth that symbolizes or stands for a group, an organization, and especially a country. Okay, so now here we've got our chart, our example of the flag of the United States. So of course, the unit, we're talking about the Pledge of Allegiance. We pledge allegiance to the flag. So it's important to talk about the flag of the United States. What is it? What does the design of the flag mean? Let's talk about that a little bit. First of all, we can see the flag of the United States. We see a good picture here. Hey, remember I told you before at the beginning of every game, we say the Pledge of Allegiance. This is a football game. All the cheerleaders are standing up here. There are some soldiers who are visiting, and of course TV crews. Looks like a professional football game. Everybody's standing up and pledging allegiance to the flag. This happens at the beginning of every sports event in America. So, the national flag, if we look at the flag, of course, we have an area of blue with many stars on it, and we have an area of red and white stripes. So, the national flag of America is called the Stars and Stripes because there are many stars and there are many stripes. Also, it's called the Star-Spangled Banner. Star-Spangled means that there are many stars on it. Banner is another word for flag. Is that okay? Yeah, that's okay. Flag. Flag is the same as banner. A banner is a big sign or a big piece of cloth. And of course, a flag is a big symbol. It's like a sign. It's a big piece of cloth. So a banner can also be used to describe a flag. So the Stars and Stripes is a very common way to call the American flag. Also, the Star-Spangled Banner is also another common way to describe the American flag. Two names for the American flag. Let's talk about the stars, the 50 stars. I said that this area here, right, you can count these stars. If you counted them, I'm not going to, that's going to take too long, but if you counted these stars, you would find that there are 50 stars on the flag. Why 50? Because there are 50 states, right? There are 50 states. 48 states are all together in the lower, we call it the lower 48, but they're all connected, they're all together. And then there's two states that are separate. One is Alaska, one is Hawaii, out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So 50 states. Each star symbolizes or stands for a different state. Now think about that. In the history of America, there weren't always 50 stars on the flag. Sometimes there were 13. Maybe one time there was 20 or 33. Stars kept being added as new states came into the country, as new states were added to America, as people kept moving west. Okay, the 13 stripes. Well, we've talked about the stars, but what about the stripes, right? What about these things here? The stripes stand for the first 13 states. The first 13 states are the 13 colonies. England, or Great Britain, had colonies along the eastern part of America, and they'd split it up into 13 different regions. When America became independent, when it became the United States of America, it only had 13 states. And so we have 13 stripes, red and white, to symbolize or stand for those states. So basically the stars and the stripes, they all stand for states. The stripes are for the original or first 13 states, and the stars are for all of the states. And that's the idea of the American flag. And by the way, very important colors, red, white, and blue. When we say red, white, and blue, we of course are talking about the American flag. Another way to describe it is the old red, white, and blue. By the way, red, white, and blue are also the colors of the British flag. So, you know, the Americans, they didn't want to break completely away from the mother country, right? So they used the same colors, but they just made a different design. Okay, we've come to our mini quiz here. We see this picture here. We see this question. We have to answer the question. The answer has a blank. So the question is, what is the student doing in the picture? We can see her there. It's the same girl we saw at the beginning of the lesson. And I told you many times, to do this, you put your right hand over your heart and you look at the flag. And what are you doing? She is saying the Pledge of Allegiance, the promise of faithfulness to her flag, which symbolizes her country. So she's pledging allegiance. She is saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. True or false? Let's take a look at these sentences. Allegiance. We talked about this word right here. Allegiance means. What does allegiance mean? Allegiance means treating people equally and fairly. Is that right? Allegiance means treating people equally and fairly? No, that's false, isn't it? Because allegiance means being faithful to somebody or someone. It doesn't mean treating them equally or fairly. What means treating people equally and fairly? That's another word that we studied. Not allegiance, but, you remember it starts with a J? That's right, it's justice. Justice means treating people equally and fairly. That's justice. So we have to change it, so that's false. The national flag of America is called the Star-Spangled Banner. Remember, we talked about different names for the flag. We learned 2 names, and I also told you another one based on the colors, the old red, white, and blue. But is another name for the flag the Star-Spangled Banner? Is that true? Yeah, that's true. That is one of the many names or nicknames that we call the American flag, the Star-Spangled Banner. Another one, the Stars and Stripes. Another one, the old red, white, and blue. Okay, number 3. The Pledge of Allegiance is a promise. Yes, it is. It is a pledge. It is a promise. What is it a promise to do? To honor the flag and the country. Is that true? Absolutely, that's true. The Pledge of Allegiance, it's a promise to honor, to be faithful to the flag and the country, to support, to help, to show respect, to honor the flag and the country. So that is true. So number 3 is true as well. Okay, that wraps it up for the vocabulary section. Let's take a short break and look at the reading section. Okay, welcome back. Let's go over the reading passage together. Now, sometimes when we are writing about a difficult idea or a very complex idea, like, for example, the Pledge of Allegiance, it's important that we sometimes start off in a very general way and we get more and more specific. And that's what this reading passage is doing. The first sentence is, there are many ways that people can show respect for someone or something. That's a very general statement, right? We're saying there are many ways. Well, it's very general. Lots of different ways that people can show respect for. So there are different ways that you can show respect for someone or something. It's a very general statement. Now we're getting a little more specific. The next sentence is a little more specific or narrow in our focus. One way. Before we talked about many ways, now we say one way. So let's be more specific. One way is for people to give allegiance to someone or something. So now our next sentence is getting more specific. There are many ways. One way is to give allegiance to something. That's one way to show respect for. When people give allegiance, they make a promise to honor and be faithful to someone or something. So this sentence here, starting here and going down here, is defining what is allegiance. When people give allegiance, they make a promise. When you give allegiance, you make a promise. A promise to do what? You make a promise to do something. In this case, you make a promise to honor and to be faithful to someone or something. To show respect to someone, to be faithful, to support them, to help them. Something or someone. Okay, then we get very specific. What is our topic? The Pledge of Allegiance. Now finally, we've come to our main topic in the reading passage, right? We start off very general and we went very narrow, and we've come to our topic, the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance is a promise to honor the American flag and the United States of America. So it's a promise to honor 2 things. One thing is the American flag. The second thing is the United States of America. Of course, the flag is just a piece of cloth. It's a symbol. The United States of America is a country, and the people in the country and the government of the country, to be faithful to all the people and the government. The American flag stands for the Republic of the United States of America. Remember, republic, not a true democracy, but a republic where people vote for representatives, politicians to represent them in the government. So the American flag stands for, symbolizes the Republic of the United States of America. Every morning, okay, we're talking about the Pledge of Allegiance. Every morning, students face the flag and say the Pledge of Allegiance. And this is true. American school children, every morning in school, stand up, face the flag, and say the Pledge of Allegiance. People also do it before sports or government events begin. So I told you sports, right? Before sporting games, baseball games, and we saw the picture of the football game, but also before government events. So if the government has an event or a meeting or some other happening that the government is involved in, that's another time that people say the Pledge of Allegiance. They show thanks for living in a community with liberty and justice. So the Pledge of Allegiance isn't just a promise, it's also a way to show thanks. Thanks for what? Thanks for living in a community, living in a nation with liberty and with justice. Because that's very important. And hopefully most people, or not everybody around the world, lives in a community where there is liberty and justice. Unfortunately, there are countries where people don't have liberty or they don't have justice, right? So it's very lucky. We should be thankful. We should show our support and our respect and be faithful to our country when we live under liberty and justice. Okay. The reading skill, main idea and details. The main idea is here. The Pledge of Allegiance is a promise to beep the American flag and the U.S. That's our main idea. We have a blank in it. We have two details that support that main sentence. And in the two details, in the second detail, we have two more blanks. So we have three blanks we have to fill with these words: justice, honor, and liberty. Let's begin with A. The Pledge of Allegiance is a promise to do what? To justice, to honor, or to liberty the American flag and the U.S. Well, if we just look at this sentence from a grammatical point of view, we see that we need a verb. A verb follows to. Is justice a verb? No, it's a noun. Is liberty a verb? No, it's a noun. Honor is the only verb. So if we just look at it from a grammatical point of view, we know that the answer has to be honor. But if we also look at it from the vocabulary point of view, what does it mean? We also understand it should be honor. The Pledge of Allegiance is a promise to show respect to the American flag and the U.S., and that also fits. So it's a verb, and it also means it has the correct meaning in the sentence. Okay. The first detail, every morning students face the flag and they say it. So every morning students face the flag and they say this. That's true. That's one detail. The other detail is they. Who's they? Students. They show thanks for living with what and what? Well, here we have two nouns. Both of them fit. But in the Pledge of Allegiance, it's a certain order. You pledge allegiance to the flag, to the flag of the United States, or one republic under God, indivisible, with boop and boop for all. What is the order? With liberty and justice for all. So liberty and justice for all. That's part of the Pledge of Allegiance. It's that same word order. And usually Americans, when they think of liberty and justice, they think of liberty first and then justice second, because that's part of the Pledge of Allegiance. You could say justice and liberty, but because of the Pledge of Allegiance, it's more common to say liberty and justice. Doesn't really matter though. Okay, they show thanks for living with liberty and justice for all the people. Okay, let's go over the reading comprehension questions. How well do you remember the reading passage? Question number 1. What is another word for pledge? We talked about this a lot. To pledge means the same as to what? To liberty, to republic, or to promise. Again, from a grammatical point of view, liberty is a noun, republic is a noun, promise is a verb, pledge is a verb, to pledge, okay? What is another word for pledge? Oh, by the way, I'm sorry, pledge can also be a noun, promise can also be a noun, so you gotta be careful. But anyway, pledge and promise are the same meaning, right? To pledge means to promise something. If you promise to do something, you're making a pledge. But the difference, again, like I said before, a pledge is a more formal, it's a more solemn type of promise. If you say to your brother, I promise I won't borrow your clothes, is that a pledge? It's a little bit, not really a pledge. Pledges would be more formal in that situation. A pledge is a promise you make to other people, to your family, to your country. That's a pledge. So it should be promise. Number 2, every morning students what? And make a pledge. What do they do when they make the pledge? Do they face the flag? Do they face their teacher? Or do they face the republic? Well, of course, you remember they face the flag, right? They don't face their teacher. That's like they're pledging their allegiance to their teacher. They don't do that. The teacher would have too much power, right? You don't pledge allegiance to your teacher, although you should show respect for your teacher, but you pledge allegiance to the flag, the country. You face the republic. How do you face the republic? The republic is an idea. It's not an actual thing. So how do you face, where is the republic, right? Many students would be confused. They would be pointing in different directions. Okay? So students face the flag because the flag is the symbol for the republic. It's the symbol for the nation. It's the symbol for the country, the United States of America. Okay. Number 3. People give the Pledge of Allegiance. You give the Pledge of Allegiance. When? A, before sports or government events begin. B, after school has finished for the day. C, when they want to honor their parents. Obviously, C is not correct. When they want to honor their parents, the Pledge of Allegiance is not to honor parents, right? After school is finished for the day, school's out. Let's pledge allegiance. No, we don't do it then, right? We do it before sports or government events begin, and also at the beginning of the day, before school begins, or, right when school begins, okay? So we pledge allegiance before sports or government events begin, and also students do this every day at the beginning of the school day. Number 4, what is one way you can show respect for someone? How can you show respect for someone? A, you can pledge, promise, to show no justice. No justice to that person. I will show you no justice. No justice for you. Is that showing respect for someone? No, that's not showing respect for someone. That's saying, I will give you no justice. I won't be fair to you. I won't be equal to you. We don't mean that. B, you can give allegiance to that person. How can you show respect for someone? You can give allegiance to that person? Yeah, sure. You're showing them that you'll be faithful, that you will help them, that you will support them. So you can pledge allegiance to a flag, you can pledge allegiance to a company, you can pledge allegiance to a person. You can pledge allegiance to many different things. But when you say the Pledge of Allegiance, we're talking about the American Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. But please don't be please don't be confused. You can pledge allegiance to other things or to people. C, you can give the American flag to that person if you show respect for that person. No, and in some situations, some people might not appreciate that. If you give the American flag to them, they say, what are you doing? Especially in some countries, they might not like that. So you got to be careful. The way that you show respect for someone is you give allegiance to that person. And in fact, that's a common idea, of course, a long, long time ago when there were kings and queens, right? The people would pledge allegiance to the king, pledge allegiance to the queen, and that's giving allegiance to a person. They're showing respect to their leaders a long time ago. Okay, let's move on to our chart here. We have the Pledge of Allegiance. Do you remember the Pledge of Allegiance? Right? I said it for you earlier, right? Now, you don't have to remember it. Of course, you're not citizens of America, but let's just go over it together. It's, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. The flag. So you pledge allegiance to the flag for the republic for which it stands. It stands for the republic. What is the republic? One nation under God. Okay? So America, it got to start as a religious nation. One nation under God, indivisible. It cannot be divided, with liberty and justice for all. For all the people are treated fairly and equally, and they all have freedom. And those are the ideals, really, of America, that it is a republic. It is not a true democracy where everybody directly participates in the government. Leaders are chosen by the people. It's a republic. And the flag stands for that republic. It's one nation under God. It's indivisible. You cannot divide it. It has liberty and justice for all. And that is the Pledge of Allegiance for the American flag. So this unit was talking about the Pledge of Allegiance. Of course, this Pledge of Allegiance, we're talking about the promise that students and American citizens make to the flag that symbolizes their nation. And the ideas, the important ideas of America are, of course, that it is a nation that has justice and liberty for all people in that country. Okay? And it's a way to show honor to not just the flag. Of course, you're showing honor to your country and to the history of your country and to the culture of your country. So that is the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm sure you probably have another Pledge of Allegiance for Korea that you say during important events. So that's kind of interesting to study about different countries and what their history is and a little bit about their culture. I hope you've learned a lot in this lesson, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.